The price of Bitcoin is struggling to break and stay above $42,000, and there's one big catalyst that nobody's talking about that could send us down drastically. Before I get started, as a Texan, I just want to say it's beautiful to see all of the support and love from around the country and around the world, and I stand with Governor Abbott. We have to secure the border and secure the homeland. I stand with Texas, and I hope you guys do too. The Texas border crisis is actually the catalyst that I'm talking about that could send us for a huge leg lower, because if this thing actually continues to accelerate and there are real fears of a civil war-like situation starting to unfold, then this could send shockwaves around the whole world. And you guys remember what happened at the beginning of the Ukraine and Russia situation. There was a lot of volatility, and ultimately it sent us to the upside, but whenever things first started to pop off, there was definitely a lot of fear. But just imagine how much fear it could actually cause if there were real concerns of some kind of a hot tension happening here in the country that leads the free world. Since the beginning of the Joe Biden administration, supposedly more than 11 million people have surged over the Mexican border into Texas and other bordering states, and now Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, has decided to put up razor wire along the border and try to shut things down. Then Joe Biden said that Texas had until the end of the day yesterday to let federal agents come in and cut down the razor wire and reopen the border for illegal crossings to continue facilitating the invasion of our country. The Babylon Bee says Biden said Texas had until the end of the day to remove razor wire or else.
I was going to foot him.
And then 25 states signed a letter pledging their support for Texas and its constitutional right to defend the southern border. According to this post by Benny Johnson, here's a map of the 25 states that have announced their support of Texas, and we've even seen governors start to send their National Guard members down to the Texas border and try to help Governor Abbott secure it.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Brian Allen. Within the last half hour, the office of South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem announcing the governor tomorrow will go to what her office is calling the war zone at the U.S.-Mexico border. Noem making the announcement tonight on Fox News, saying she is standing in solidarity with Texas Governor Greg Abbott and his efforts to stem illegal immigration. This comes just hours after Noem and 23 other Republican governors, including Iowa's Kim Reynolds and North Dakota's Doug Burgum, signed a letter showing support for Texas's efforts.
And then Governor Abbott refused to step down, saying that if the Biden administration federalizes the National Guard in Texas, then he'll have other Texas law enforcement and personnel guard the border, and he's going to continue having razor wire put up to try to secure the border and protect Texas from the invasion.
On Monday, the Supreme Court of the United States ruled that the Biden administration is legally allowed to open the border by force to cut down razor wire along the Rio Grande sector of the U.S.-Mexico border in Texas. The governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, drafted a letter, not simply to the administration, but to the world. And here's part of what it says. The state of Texas has the authority under the Constitution to, quote, protect itself. That authority is the supreme law of the land, and it supersedes any federal statutes to the contrary. What happens next? We're thankful to be joined now by Governor Greg Abbott of Texas, who joins us by phone from India. If the administration declares that it plans to federalize the National Guard of the state of Texas, your National Guard, what will be your response?
Well, first, I'll be shocked. That would be a boneheaded move on his part, a total disaster. But for one, as you might imagine, we are prepared in the event that that unlikely event does occur to make sure that we will be able to continue exactly what we've been doing over the past months, and that is building these barriers, whether it be the concertina wire or other anti-climb border barriers, whatever we've been building. The Biden administration is now trying to attack us because of it, and we will continue to do exactly what we're doing to expand our denial of illegal entry into the state of Texas.
With state employees, I assume, not with National Guard, but can you envision a scenario in which you would put armed state employees on the border instead of the National Guard of Texas?
We do have other armed state employees on the border as we speak right this minute, and that's the Texas Department of Public Safety, as well as other law enforcement officers, as well as National Guard from other states. And you can be assured there will be more National Guard from other states and more law enforcement officers within the state of Texas and other states. And, Tucker, I just signed a law a new law in the state of Texas that will go into effect on March the 5th that authorizes any law enforcement officer in the state of Texas to be able to arrest anybody coming across the border illegally.
Indeed, this morning we received confirmation that Governor Abbott did not stand down, and the Texas National Guard remains securing the border, and the razor wire still stands. Joe Biden seems hell-bent on facilitating the invasion of our country, and according to Elon Musk, that is undeniable at this point. It's been an absolute free-for-all down there, and if this doesn't look like an invasion, then I don't know what the hell does. The Biden administration responded by sanctioning Texas, essentially, by making a decision to delay gas export proposals from Texas. But why does the Biden administration want this invasion to happen in Texas? Well, it's because obviously it's a huge threat. For one, Texas is the 8th largest economy in the whole world, and it has way too much power. Literally, Texas is the largest energy producing state in the nation between natural gas, oil, air farms, and solar. And it's the #1 U.S. exporter for 21 years in a row now. Texas is also the leading destination for companies relocating from other states, and since it doesn't follow the narrative and the propaganda that the U.S. government wants everybody to follow, it's obviously a threat, and everybody trying to move there means that they're not trying to follow the narrative either. With Texas being the second most populated state in the whole United States and projected to become the #1 populated state in coming years, it's obviously going to play a really important role when it comes to voting in whoever becomes the president. And if the Democrats want to stay in power, then obviously they just have to flood the whole state with millions of immigrants that are going to vote Democrat, and that way they can steal the voting rights away from the native population. All around the country, politicians are trying to pave the way for illegal immigrants to be able to vote, and they don't even need to have voter ID apparently anyway, so it doesn't matter. And all of these illegal immigrants coming into Texas and other states are all obviously going to vote for the people who open the door to let them in. But if throwing away the rights and the voting power of the citizens of this country isn't bad enough, now we're just letting in well-known terrorists and leaders of Islamic organizations who plan to do harm to people of this country. Here we have a video of a guy who was questioned illegally crossing the border, and he had some pretty scary stuff to say.
If you are smart enough, you will know who I am. But you are really not smart enough to know who I am. But soon you're gonna know who I am. Very easy.
Wow, very easy. The entitlement.
No, believe me, I'm much better than that.
The entitlement, guys. Wow.
He says, really soon you're going to know who I am. And the internet did a little bit of investigating, discovering that this guy's name is Movsum Samadov. Movsum Samadov was imprisoned for criticizing religious freedom conditions and for his political activity, it says. And that doesn't sound very scary, but it goes on. On January 20th, 2011, Samadov was charged with preparing a crime, preparing terrorism committed on a preliminary arrangement by a group of persons or organized group of criminal organization, preparing terrorism committed with application of firearms or subjects used as a weapon, illegally purchasing, transferring, selling, storing, transporting, and carrying firearms, accessories, supplies, and explosives committed by an organized group, actions directed on violent capture or violent deduction power. Basically, this guy got in trouble for transporting, transferring, and distributing firearms and explosives and stuff that was going to be used in terrorist attacks. And then this guy was only released on January 19th of 2023. Now, almost exactly 1 year later, he's been recorded crossing the U.S. border into Texas, and the Biden administration still wants to prevent Governor Abbott from trying to secure the border. It's insane. This guy said that soon enough we're going to know who he is, and I don't think he meant because somebody's going to search him up on the internet. He probably meant because he has a plan and he's here to do something. So yes, I stand with Texas, and I believe that we definitely have to secure the border, because if we don't, then the future of this country and a lot of people's lives might actually be in danger.
Daniel Miller, president of Texas Texas Nationals Movement, the TNM, has urged Governor Greg Abbott to significantly expand and fully militarize the Texas State Guard if President Biden federalizes the Texas National Guard amid the border crisis. Miller stated, if Biden federalizes the Texas National Guard, Greg Abbott should immediately throw enlistment and Texas State Guard wide open, fully militarize them, and deploy them as border protection force along the entire border. The Texas State Guard, which currently comprises around 1,900 personnel, could potentially serve as an alternative border protection force, as it cannot be federalized by law and remains under the sole authority of the government of Texas. In contrast, the Texas National Guard, with roughly 23,000 personnel, could be federalized.
So we're going to find out if Biden is going to try to federalize the National Guard and if Texas actually has to try to secure its border in other ways. If this happens, then tensions could definitely escalate. And even if Biden backs down and lets Governor Abbott secure the border, it looks like we've already got terrorist organizations and a bunch of illegal immigrants over here who have all already decided to engage in illegal activities by coming here across the border in a criminal manner, making all of them criminals and susceptible to continue acting out in criminal ways. This means that we could continue having all kinds of catalysts in the future that are negative because of this border crisis issue, and the quicker we can actually get this border secured, the better it's going to be, not only for the nation and for the state of Texas, but also for our finances and all of our businesses as well. Luckily, though, it looks like the American people are having none of it, as 700,000 truckers are supposed to be headed to the Mexican border right now to stand with Governor Abbott and stand with Texas in trying to secure the border for the good of the American public. It's really great to see the American people finally standing up against this tyranny, but I really hope this stuff doesn't escalate because I don't want to see any violence, and like I said, it also wouldn't be very good for our portfolios. On the bright side, though, I think that if Texas were to secede, it would instantly become a crypto tax haven because Texas has no income tax. Follow me over on X for more hot takes like this. If these tensions don't actually escalate and things start to cool down a little bit, then hopefully the market can recover. But we do still have another huge catalyst coming up this week that will probably cause some volatility in the markets. In just 3 days and 22 hours, or 2 business days from the time of recording, we have the next Fed meeting, and there is about a 96% chance that they're going to continue with their pause. However, in the next meeting, it looks like it's almost 50-50 on whether they're going to be doing a rate cut or if they're going to continue with their pause. So people are going to be paying really close attention to what Jerome Powell has to say in his statement to see whether or not he's actually going to hold rates steady or if he's seeing some economic cracks forming in the system that are going to cause him to actually have to do cuts. Also, next week, we do have the JOLTS jobs openings coming out, and if that comes in lower than expected, then it could be a sign that we're heading deeper into the recession. And on Thursday, we have initial jobless claims, meaning that we're going to find out how unemployment is doing. And Friday is non-farm payrolls and unemployment rate. So this week, we're going to get a whole lot of indications on how well the economy is doing and how the Fed thinks things are proceeding and whether or not they're actually going to be able to start putting liquidity back into the system and send us all to the moon. In the meantime, though, it looks like on this weekly chart, if Bitcoin actually does close the candle looking like this, that could be a hammer candle, which could send us to the upside some more. But we did just put in what looks like a shooting star a couple weeks ago, and the MACD is curving to the downside. Not to mention, we still haven't filled out this bear flag, and we're still not making any kind of higher highs or higher lows here. So right now, it looks like we are in a downtrend, and until we can break above and hold above about $44,000, it looks like there's just a lot of uncertainty and not very many positive catalysts in our future for a couple months now. So we might continue this retracement up until the halvening, but eventually I think we are going to see a solid bottoming signal, and the rest of the year is probably going to be massive gain. We're just getting started with the year though, and we've already got Bitcoin ETFs and fears of civil war causing massive volatility in the markets, and what really is true is that nobody knows what's actually going to happen next. And if you don't believe that, then who among you could have foreseen that Ben Shapiro was going to be the #1 rapper of the whole year so far?
Let's look at the stats. I've got the facts. My money like Lizzo, my pockets are fat. Homie, I'm epic. Don't be a wap. Dog, it's a yarmulke. Homie, no cap.
No cap. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Is this Texas border situation going to escalate and cause fear and maybe even some panic in the markets? Or do you think that the Fed is going to come out Wednesday and save us all, sending us back skyrocketing to the moon? Either way, thank you guys so much for watching, and don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. But most importantly, don't forget to have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.